Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this extremely exciting session on thematic investing, which we at Ethical Advisors are extremely delighted to bring for you in collaboration with Small Case. As you know, investing is an art, and most of us are looking to make money over extended periods of time and create wealth. Equities are the main source of wealth creation, which fall in the growth category, which all of us know. Some of us do struggle, however, and are often confused between what is the right stock, what is the right sector, and invariably, what is the right time. These are the conundrums minutes from my side, and then open the floor for intelligent Q&A from the audience. Thematic investing, as we all know, is a process of identifying powerful macro level trends. Once these trends are identified, they have to be converted into investable ideas. And once a basket of ideas is identified, you then have to narrow down and create a portfolio of companies and sectors which benefit from those identified trends. Many a times I get asked the question, so is thematic investing similar to trading? And no, the answer is no. When you look at what defines thematic investing and what differentiates it from trading, is that trading involves betting against time based on certain momentum indicators. It is, by its very definition, short-term in nature. It involves trading in stocks with a definite time, frame in mind. Could be a day, could be a week, could be a month. Thematic investing is one step above that. As we mentioned, it means creating a portfolio of stocks, but at the same time using nimble approach for medium to long-term gains. So trading and thematic investing to that extent are two different strategies. The thematic investing strategy portfolio which is created, as I said, is nimble and dynamic. When you create a basket of stocks, it is very likely that some of your bets may not play through or may play through with a slightly longer time frame than you had envisaged. And that's when course correction is needed. In thematic investing, we do take course correction, as you know. So to conclude, you have the traditional buy and hold, where long-term investors just identify stocks they like and hold it for lengthy periods of time, for extended, sometimes for decades. Trading is short-term, so thematic investing fits somewhere in between. There is also a very interesting question, again, as we all get mired with various terminologies. What is thematic and what is sectoral? Very simple. In sectoral, we are restricted. In thematic, sky is the limit. In sectoral, we are restricted by a single sector, maybe financials, maybe industrials, maybe pharma, maybe IT companies. A portfolio manager or an advisor who is creating a sectoral portfolio will thus go deep dive into that sector. He will go across market caps, he will go across functionalities, but his main theme should be restricted only to that sector. For example, I cannot put an HDFC Bank in a pharma portfolio. I mean, as simple as that. It's very elementary. And hence, it does limit the scope of stock selection. It also means that you are taking a very concentrated sector risk. You're betting on that sector. And again, my age-old mantra is that there is nothing right, there's nothing wrong in investing. But you must be aware of the risk that you are taking when you're entering a stock or a sector or a theme. So clearly, sectoral portfolios concentrate risk. If anything goes wrong in that sector, then you are exposed to a higher beta. You are also exposed to a higher risk. On the flip side, it allows the fund manager or the advisor to go deep down the sector. So, for example, if you have a sectoral basket on autos, you can have a very varied selection of direct and indirect beneficiaries of the sector. You don't have to stick to the OEM makers. You can have anybody linked to that sector who's benefiting from the growth of that sector, including auto ancillaries, including rubber chemicals, including tire manufacturers, and so on and so forth. So you can actually go several levels deep and play that sector. So in short, sectoral investing is high risk but high return. On the other hand, thematic investing is exactly opposite that. There are lots of sectors. So the thematic portfolio is sector agnostic. It is what people like in cherry picking. They like to cherry pick stocks. They like to diversify. They like to make the portfolio vibrant and versatile. And clearly, that is some of the best practices that global investors, including Charlie Munger, Warren Buffett, and the who's and who, even the Indian doyens, Mr. Damani, Mr. Junjunwala, the great Samir Arora. I mean, all of these, if you have been following them, this is what they profess. So thematic investing thus is more vibrant, diversified, creates a well-balanced risk-adjusted portfolio, and does not restrict you to any sector. In short, it's moderate risk-adjusted return that you're looking at. Remember, friends, whenever we are looking at making money, you have to control your greed and fear. I think thematic investing does just that. So moving on to trying to understand what is a theme. A theme could be something which can be played or which have played out with certain time frames in mind. So let's say, for example, in the past, we've had the rising middle class theme. When Indian per capita GDP started growing fast and started going towards a level where it crossed global thresholds, we had past experiences of some of the economies which had crossed those thresholds. So as India was approaching that, and as the penetration was rising, and as the middle class was emerging, which it still is, I'm not saying it's over, but that's one theme. Currently, defense is a theme, with the cross-border tensions rising, the geopolitics playing out in a bit of a volatile fashion. Defense is the theme. Housing and infrastructure could be a theme. Rising rural incomes we've discussed. Agri production has been good. Monsoons have been favorable for 3 consecutive years. So rising rural income could have been a theme. Again, if you note all these themes that we have noted, themes come and themes go. Themes never die. Themes may lose relevance, but they will always come back. It is, and hence thematic investing also means you have to keep a very close watch on what can occur and what cannot occur going forward. So what are the other relevant themes? I mean, the simple question is, fine, we know what's happened in the past, but what are the themes that today we should use to create a portfolio or to asset allocate from our funds? Clearly, we at Ethical Advisors believe that there are several themes which will pan out. We've just listed 5 of them here on the screen. First and foremost, and it is very, again, elementary to us, the demand rebound or demand recovery theme post-pandemic. That is something which one has to be extremely clued on. Good times and bad times are never here to stay forever. That is the basis of our conviction. That is the basis of us creating this theme. Whatever stocks and whatever sectors have been beaten down because of the global pandemic fears and the economic slowdown are the ones which will see the maximum recovery if you have a 1.5 to 2 years view. And that's our first theme. Exactly contra to that, on the rightmost corner, we have listed the resilience theme. Now, resilience theme was a hit, especially in the first 2 months post-pandemic, when we as a global investing community, or I would say we as humanity, had no idea where the world was headed. Was the pandemic going to create huge mortality? Was it going to annihilate the world? Everybody was scratching their heads. It is at that time that we identified stocks which had resilience, which means they fell less compared to the market falls in a particular time frame. Moving on to the next one on the right hand side, healthcare. Healthcare, cleanliness, good practices, Swachh Bharat, all these things have suddenly sprung up in everybody's minds thanks to the pandemic. Things which we took for granted, things which we did not appreciate, including the pharmaceutical sector, the healthcare sector, their importance in our lives suddenly came right to the fore. You can play that as a healthcare theme. Going forward and looking at what the world is headed towards and what the world has been witnessing from the top-down global political scenario, 2000 to 2015 was the era where globalization was the mainstay. Cross-border exchange of ideas, goods, and services was the order of the hour. In short, production and services found their market where economically they needed the most and where the demand was the highest at the right price. Having said that, in the last 3 to 4 years, we have been witnessing a lot of protectionism. We have been privy to a lot of countries raising sanctions against large suppliers of commodities. For whatever reason, there have also been chatters of Indian IT. Of course, these are political noises that Indian IT is taking jobs in the US. Whatever it may be, right or wrong, protectionism has slowly crept in and is actually threatening to dislodge the globalization theme, which was panning out so well. Now, friends, the jury is still not out on this. It is a kind of a bull and bear battle, which we see in the markets every day. But import substitution has definitely gained a lot of significance from the rhetoric which has started by the US, and each and every country is now trying to maximize its gains, its products, its Atmanirbharta. So friends, these are the few themes that have panned out and some of the few themes that we think will play out. We will just quickly spend a minute on each of these themes that we've discussed. So as I said, resilience being the buzzword was created at a time when the markets were weak. The VIX globally had risen to an unbearable level. At the same time, it was rather foolish on anybody with an equity asset allocation to sell down his entire portfolio and move into debt. Even if the short term was weak, I don't think any investor would do that. A trader might. So we definitely had created this theme to move into stocks which fell lesser than the market so that your equity exposure was intact. At the same time, you were sitting in safe, cash rich and stocks, particularly in the FMCG or the pharma sectors, which were the mainstay at that time. We've discussed the demand recovery, so I will not waste time on this. We've already discussed that. Just some examples could be global airlines, travel and tourism companies, restaurants, hotels, leisure-oriented businesses like theme parks, maybe even auto and finance can fit in here, because those are larger market cap in India at least compared to global airlines, etc. Healthcare, again, it's not just the Dr. Reddy's and Ciplas of the world. I'm sure there will be enough innovation happening in the healthcare space, specifically on the immunity side, on the therapeutic side, and also on the e-commerce side of healthcare. Pandemic has taught us one thing, that the life which we were used to, the products and services which we were used to, and the delivery mechanisms which we were used to pre-pandemic are definitely undergoing a tectonic change. I mean, I could also quote education, but unfortunately, there are not many listed education companies today. Maybe if we do this webinar after 2 years, we'll have a basket of stocks. But again, as in the case of education, a lot of things have moved online. And hence, in healthcare, besides the traditional pharmaceutical companies, you could also have distribution chains as they exist in the US. You could also have global R&D kind of companies, and so on and so forth. Just highlighting the healthcare theme is not restricted to only pharma exporters. Of course, you'll also have hospitals, etc., diagnostic centers, and whatnot. Through the thick and thin, businesses which are relevant in our lives always remain present. The cash flows are extremely robust. Some of these companies we see and touch and feel their products in our day-to-day lives. Our lives would not be the same without them. These are the evergreen businesses. These are businesses which in every market, in every economy, there are those choice 20, 30, 40 companies out of the thousands which are listed, which have sustainable business models, impeccable track record of management, and those who are shareholder friendly. These are the companies which are a buy on dip, on every dip. These are the kind of evergreen portfolios. So if somebody wants to minimize his risk and yet play the equity market, and he doesn't want to get too involved with volatility, these are the themes which can ideally play out. We spoke about import substitution and Atmanirbharta. While it can be a dampener to global trade, but when it comes to your own country, when it comes to your own portfolio, you can use these themes. Interestingly, in India, this theme is something which we are also pretty excited about, because we feel that it's not just the import substitution of the day-to-day items, but India is also embarking on its own on Atmanirbharta or self-reliance. India spends billions of dollars on defense. India spends billions of dollars in imports, in importing crude oil. So when you are moving towards energy efficiency, when we are moving towards compulsory localization of defense, I think that's a big theme which will play out. This can be played through the private and public sector. So again, watch out for some of the themes on the import substitution, which many creators, including us, will come out with in the future. So friends, just quickly wrapping up and addressing a very important question that we face from our clients. We do financial planning top down for our clients. And there's always this question when people cross compare products and people try to evaluate the utility of one against the other. In the past, it was equities versus ULIPs. Today, it is small case versus mutual funds. Just stepping back, if you guys are aware, the largest penetration is of Indian savings is in real estate and gold for Indian retail. After that comes deposits with public sector banks and government schemes. And after that, thanks to aggressive marketing, it is actually the mutual funds. Mutual funds have come a long way. It's been almost 25 to 30 years since private sector and public sector have come up with a variety of products. And some of you may be aware that when mutual funds came in, were new, they were not at all trusted because people didn't understand them. But then the rest is history. I think at Ethical Advisors, we feel small cases is exactly at that threshold. It is at that threshold where, as a product, it doesn't have to be pitted against anything in particular. It has a very relevant positioning right next to the deposits, right next to the mutual funds, right next to the ULIPs. But just for the sake of comparing, what are the advantages it brings to the table to be added as a diversification to the various products is something which we need to understand. So small cases are different from mutual funds because they offer a very concentrated and a very intelligent way of playing equity. Mutual funds typically are benchmarked, whereas small case platform is not. So mutual funds managers have to follow or have to benchmark themselves to the relevant indices that they are benchmarked to. So if a fund is a large cap fund and if it's benchmarked to the Nifty, he has to own those 15 Nifty stocks. He cannot not own those stocks. That is the kind of a constraint they work under. All they can do is they can be underweight or overweight those stocks. It to a certain extent does restrict creativity when creating baskets. So small case definitely provides a lot more diversification. It also compels the advisor or the fund manager to really put his mind and cherry pick stocks on a forced basis. This is more like a forced selection of why a stock should be in there, not because it is there part of the index. So that is a very big difference, and it can make a huge difference to your portfolio returns. These are also, like mutual funds, They're also managed by SEBI licensed portfolio managers, advisors, and analysts. So you are perfectly safe when somebody is recommending a small case to you. It is somebody who is a professional, just like a doctor. He knows what he's saying. He knows what he has created. Small cases also have a lot of technology advantage in that they are very transparent, they are customizable, and definitely they are most cost efficient. In fact, I think small case is a big disruptor, and I love disruptors because that only adds to the efficiency and advantage to the consumer. So in short, small case can sit right next to a mutual fund and investors can benefit from it. So friends, moving on to ethical advisors and our collaboration with Small Case, we have created baskets. We have kept our portfolio values low, as low as possible. In fact, we cater to a cross section of investors. Our mantra is to be the micro SIM card of the small case space. As you know, micro SIM cards in India are are a well-known fact, and Indian telecom rates are the lowest in the world. So we are following that practice. We feel that just like the Udan scheme, which the government of India had launched with the mantra that every Indian can fly, our mantra is every Indian can buy equity. He doesn't have to have lakhs and crores of rupees to invest in stocks or to invest in basket of stocks. We have a very deep discounted and a very affordable micro SIM card kind of a price at just 250 rupees per month. And of course, you can it is further discounted if you go for the longer plans. And we ultimately we would definitely conclude that as we are standing at a multi-decadal opportunity in the Indian equity markets, as you probably are all aware, being intelligent investors yourselves, that over the next decade, globally, top down, it is going to be US, China, and India, which are going to be the global growth engines of global economics and global demand. And as a proud Indian, I can say that I'm happy to be part of that through our portfolio positioning and advising our clients likewise, so that we as Indians should take full advantage of our own growth story. We should make our own budgets Atmanirbhar. We should make our own family growth portfolio trajectory very strong. We should have a risk-adjusted allocation to equity and small case via any advisor or even ethical advisors on the small case platform is the right way to go for it. We have our website at the bottom. Feel free to visit ethicaladvisors.smallcase.com. You will get further details of our portfolios besides what we have just discussed. I will just skim through some of the offerings. First is the metals pack, where you subscribe for a minimum investment of just 18,500. That's our high beta bet for high risk lovers. Is definitely high risk, high return, but we are extremely confident that this is the theme which is a double leverage on global recovery post-pandemic. So people with a high risk appetite should definitely have some of these metal stocks, and the metal pays here. The resilient pack, minimum investment just less than 50,000. We have the dependables, where minimum investment is about 1,15,000 or so. And our all-time favorite, this is just 7,000 rupees, 7,000 odd, which is pocket money investing. This is something which even a college student, if he wants, he can actually start saving from day one, as his father or his parents give him pocket money. So friends, this is what all our offerings are. This is a short overview on what our thoughts on the thematic investing is. And we would love to interact with you guys on any questions that you may have. We really thank and we are indebted to Small Case and its promoters for giving us this opportunity and coming in front of such an educated and an enlightened audience as you guys.